Welcome to the 5x series, company number 2, Duolingo. Duolingo stock is currently trading at about $123 with a market cap of about $5 billion. Based on my valuation, I'm looking at 2x in the case with reasonable assumptions and about 4x in the case with great execution if bought at $123. If the stock falls to about $90 and if I buy the dip, then I am looking at a potential 5x for this company. I'll provide more details in this video. Personally, I'm excited to review companies like Duolingo, which only have $5 billion of market cap, because it only takes another $20 billion of money flowing into this stock to make it a 5x, as opposed to a company which already has a $40 billion of market cap. For that company to make a 5x, $160 billion of Wall Street's money has to flow into that stock. So it's relatively easy for a company with $5 billion of market cap. Getting back to Duolingo, I'm going to cover its business model, some financials, and finally I'll do a valuation to show the upside. And in doing so, I will also cover the investment thesis for this company. Let's get started with its business model. Duolingo, as most of us know, operates an online learning platform in the US, UK, China, and internationally. They offer courses in more than 40 languages worldwide. Duolingo gets revenue from 4 different revenue segments. As you can see on the screen, the first one is subscription, which contributes to about 75% of their total revenue. Then there is advertising. For the free users who use Duolingo's app, they have to look at ads. There's also English test. Currently, it's about 10% of their revenue. And finally, there is other, which contributes to about 5% of their total revenue. Duolingo also has grand future plans. They are currently developing a math app and also a music app, and they are counting on cross-selling from the existing user base of about 75 million monthly active users. In addition, the CEO is saying that the language market is about $60 billion, and since they currently make close to $500 million of revenue, there is a long way to go with respect to growth. At the moment, I'm skeptical about that $60 billion of number, but I definitely believe that it should be more than $5 billion. So there is still a long runway for Duolingo. Let's now look at some financials, numbers. Current market cap is about $5 billion. And for the past 12 months, they made about $442 million of revenue. That's a price to sales of about 11, which is expensive, but they're growing rapidly. So this price to sales is going to come down significantly. And for a growth stock, in my opinion, price to sales of 10 is actually reasonable. So I think at $123, Duolingo is actually reasonably priced. Let's look at the user base. As you can see on the screen, the daily active users are about 21.4 million in the most recent quarter. That's about 62% year-over-year growth, which is impressive. And the monthly active users grew by about 50% to make about 74 million users. That's a big number. Their paid subscribers are about 5.2 million, and they also show paid subscriber penetration. So out of the 74 million monthly active users they have, 5.2 million are paid subscribers. So the penetration is about 7.9%. Let's move on to the revenue. As you can see on the screen, in the most recent quarter, they grew their revenue 44% year over year, which is very impressive, to make about $126 million of revenue. Duolingo also uses machine learning and AI, and they're actually launching new AI-enabled features, and that's going to be a new tier for which users have to pay a little bit more. But we have to see how that's going to pan out in future. But it's a good thing that they're leveraging AI for their app. Now let's look at one of the interesting snips that I have taken. As you can see on the screen, year over year, they reduced their general and administrative expense by 9%, from 34% a year ago to about 25% this year. And look at the S&M, sales and marketing expense. That also reduced year over year from 17% to about 14%, and yet they could get good subscriber base year over year. And then they kept the R&D expense at the same level as last year, 39% a year ago and 38% this year. I think it's very important for Duolingo to keep that R&D expense high to get more and more apps and products so they can increase the revenue in the future. Let's now look at financial year 2023 guidance for Duolingo. They're saying the bookings will grow by about 33 to 34% to have about $569 to $575 million. And the revenues are going to grow 38% to about 40% to make about $510 million to about $516 million. Let's look at their balance sheet. As you can see on the screen, their cash and cash equivalents are $678 million. The difference between total assets and total liabilities is also close to $600 million. So I can completely give credit to this $600 million of cash equivalents. Before I move on to the valuation, let's look at its income statement in the most recent quarter. As you can see on the screen, out of the $126 million of revenue, the gross profit is about $93 million. That's about 73% gross margin, which is impressive. Their operating expenses are about $97 million. So they made an operating loss of close to $5 million. So they're not losing significant money. So that's actually good news. And they have $600 million plus in cash and cash equivalents, right? So that's a good condition to be in. And then when you look into the net income of $3.7 million, it includes interest income of $7.5 million. Because they have cash, they're getting some interest income, but it may not last long because the interest rates will go down and that number is going to come down. But it's good news that they're moving in the right direction. From $15 million loss a year ago to about $3.7 million of profit this quarter, that's actually good news. They're moving in the right direction. The stock-based compensation for the past 6 months is about $44 million, but that only represents about 15% of the total revenue. We hope that that's going to go down. With respect to the number of outstanding shares, stockanalysis.com shows about 41 million, but we also have to look at the dilutive shares. For example, there are stock options outstanding of about 3 million, and there are RSUs outstanding that are offered to the employees, about 2.3 million. So in total, they have close to 46.8 million outstanding shares. Now let's move on to the fun part in which I'm going to do the valuation. As usual, I'm going to show two cases, one with reasonable assumptions and the other one with great execution. In the reasonable assumptions case, as you can see on the screen, in 2023, they're guiding for $0.51 billion of revenue, right? So I'm keeping the same number here. With respect to estimated growth rate, I'm assuming 27.5% year over year to make about $1.7 billion of revenue. Remember that the language market is big and Duolingo is also offering extra apps like math app and the music app. We do not know how much success they're going to achieve, but there will definitely be some cross-selling with the existing users for those products. But I'm assuming that that's not going to play out and they will continue with the language app. And as they get bigger and bigger, the revenue growth will slow down. So 27.5% growth to make $1.7 billion in 2028 is reasonable to me. This company has gross margins north of 70%, so they can easily achieve 75% net profit margin. They can even get more because they have demonstrated discipline with their operating expenses and sales and marketing expenses, right? So with 25% net profit margin, they will make about $400 million of net income in 2028. For a company that's growing this fast and has high gross margins and net margins, I can easily pay 30 multiple. With that, this company would be worth about $13 billion in 2028. With respect to the outstanding shares, they do offer stock-based compensation. They do have a lot of cash that can actually buy more than 12% of the company, but I'm still assuming 2% year over year dilution, with which they will have 50 million outstanding shares by 2028. When I divide the $13 billion of market cap with 50 million outstanding shares, I get a stock price of $256 in 2028. Currently, they're at $123, right? So that's about 108% gain in 5 years, which is very attractive. Let's move on to the great execution case. In this case, I'm going to assume that the market for language is very, very big, and the apps that they're going to launch in future, the math app and the music app, are going to be a success and provide them with 35% year over year growth for the next 5 years, with which they'll make $2.3 billion of revenue in 2028. This company is growing very fast and they're executing very well, so I don't think it is too hard for them to get to $2.3 billion of revenue in 2028, but we never know. That definitely requires great execution. Also note that Duolingo definitely have competition. For example, Babbel is their competitor, but those competitors do not offer the gamified experience of learning. So that's why I do not see a direct competitor to Duolingo in that sense. But let's still assume the net profit margin of 25%, with which this company would make about $600 million of net income in 2028. For a company that's growing at 35% year over year and has a net profit margin of 25%, I can easily pay a multiple of 40. With that, this company's market cap in 2028 would be about $23 billion. I'm going to assume the same dilution. With that, the 2028 stock price would be about $455. Currently, they're at $123, right? So that represents about 270% gain, or a 3.7x in 5 years, which is a multi-bagger. Now let's do a back calculation. What should be the price for me to get in if I want to get a 5x? Since I'm estimating $450 stock price in 2028 with great execution, if I divide that with 5, I get a stock price of $90. So in other words, if I buy at $90, I can get a 5x in 2028 with Duolingo's great execution case. Since this is a growth stock, there will be a lot of ups and downs. We will get opportunities. Not long ago, as you can see on the screen, it was trading at $65 about 8 months ago. Even 3 or 4 months ago, it was trading close to $100. So I think we will get opportunities. Personally, I'm planning to initiate a position in Duolingo at $120 stock price in the coming weeks. I will do a YouTube post when I actually make the purchase. In the coming quarters and years, I'm going to follow Duolingo's progress. I will look at their user growth, revenue growth, and their discipline with respect to expenses. Based on their execution, I will make a decision whether to add to my position in Duolingo shares or completely remove them from my investment portfolio. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching.